Although the Prohibition movement could be traced all the way back to the mid-1800s, it wasn't until the day of January 17, 1920, when nationwide prohibition was thrown into full swing. By this time, gangs had risen out of some of America's major cities. New York and Chicago housed many gangs that looked at this opportunity from Prohibition as one to strike it rich. Two well-known mobsters, Al Capone and his nemesis, Bugs Moran, both made millions of dollars through the sale of illegal alcohol in Chicago.
Many mobsters gained prominence in the Great Depression era, where no one really had any money, and they just wanted to hit up those Benjamins, if you mind me saying, they many prominent mobsters didn't really come from money. They were already down in the dumps with their families, like Al Capone. Although he grew up in a Catholic church, he was summarily kicked out 14 at the age of 14 for punching his teacher square in the jaw. I bet he had an arm on him. Oh, buddy. And he was probably arguably the most prominent mobster in the 1920s.
Some of the original gangs in New York were something like the 5 Points Gang, which had many famous mobsters in it, like Al Capone, Lucky Luciano, and Johnny Torrio. And they organized these massive webs of gambling dens and brothels, and they had many poor followers, people that looked for somebody to provide for them, but in the Prohibition era and the Great Depression, they couldn't find anybody else.
Citizens were they were in awe of these kingpins. They just absolutely loved them. John Dillinger, he was quite a famous man for I guess being sort of a Robin Hood, even though he stole from banks and gave to himself. But other than that, there was just citizens just looked up to not every single. I guess there were a few bad eggs in the illustrious mobster rings. They just looked up to many mobsters for breaking the quota, if you will, and just they were out to get the green.
Organized crime received a major boost from Prohibition. Mafia groups limited their activities to prostitution, gambling, and theft until 1920, when organized bootlegging manifested in response to the effect of Prohibition.
Prohibition in the 1920s was an opportunity for everyone to get in on that green, if you know what I mean. There were the bootleggers who had to run the illegal product, and then there were even the moonshiners who had to make the illegal product, because there was just room for everyone to get in on the money, and it was just a wonderful time to be a criminal of any kind.
What's the history of the Lucchese family?
Well, they don't really tell me much because I'm not that high ranking up in the mafia there. But really, it's just been boss after boss after boss. And
Al Capone, one of the best-known gangsters, moved to Chicago in 1920 to work for Johnny Torrio. Capone was given the task of controlling Torrio's territories and gaining new ones. He also made the local speakeasies buy alcohol from Torrio.
Mobsters were just these enigmatic beings that were revered for the style, the class, and just the criminality of the whole thing. I mean, they had so much swag. They, like, nowadays, gangs doing it big, like mobsters, man. I mean, they got that real talk swag, and they had these vast fortunes that are accrued from just such brutality, and I guess some may just revere them for their just taking of whatever they wanted, and I guess in any society that would be frowned upon, but in the 1920s and 1930s, the mobsters were walking legends.
Capone quickly rises in rank, and in 1925 he took over Torrio's business. After only 2 years, Capone was raking in an astounding amount of $60 million a year from alcohol sales alone. Capone ruled the bootlegging industry, and he controlled all of the speakeasies in Chicago. A profitable, often violent black market for alcohol flourished. Rather than reducing crime, it seemed Prohibition had transformed the cities into battlegrounds between opposing bootlegging gangs. In a study of over 30 major U.S. cities during the Prohibition years of 1920 and 1921, the number of crimes increased by 24%. Additionally, theft and burglaries increased by 9%, homicide by 12.7%, assaults and batteries rose by 13%, drug addiction by 44.6%, and police department costs rose by 11.4%. Gangs also use violence and brutality to control territories or as ways to control or punish members in rival gangs.
What kind of things do the Lucchese family do?
Crime-wise?
Yes, like sex slavery,
Oh.
extortion.
Yeah, I don't know if we do all that, but we do hits. We do number rackets, like fake lotteries. We do racketing, like protection racketing. Like you make somebody pay for protection from the crimes that you guys commit. Pretty easy way to make some money. The Tommy gun was a very iconic weapon for the mobsters at the time. It was one of the main choices, shotguns and the Tommy guns. It just became a status symbol for the mobsters, and they could instill fear with the citizens. They had a sense of a fear factor that a lot of the other people looked at. They just looked at it as like, wow, I might die if I messed with them. And some of them did. Some of them died. A lot of them died that messed with them. They shot them.
On February 14, 1929, 7 members of the North Side Gang, ran by Bugs Moran, were put up against a garage wall and killed by Capone's men, dressed as police officials. After the investigation, public outrage over the massacre marked the beginning of the end of Capone's influence in Chicago. With the creation of the FBI, law enforcement finally had the helping hand it needed.
How do the police react to your actions?
Well, usually we try to stay out of the line of police sight, and obviously they reacted pretty well to me because I'm in prison.
The FBI was sort of their rise to power when they caught all these people like Alvin Karpus and Machine Gun Kelly, and it was one of the things that sort of gained their prominence here in our society today in the United States.
The one man who spearheaded the crusade against crime was J. Edgar Hoover. Though many wanted to put a stop to the gangsters' crime spree, none were more passionate than Hoover.
The end of the Great Depression was sort of a death of every mobster, along with the FBI and J. Edgar Hoover, who was just, it was his goal to just get rid of every single mobster. He got famous mobsters like John Dillinger, and some other people got Al Capone for tax evasion, which was a very bad way to go. I mean, for someone as prominent as Al Capone.
With Al Capone at the height of his criminal power, the president at the time, Herbert Hoover, knew that something had to be done. His treasurer assigned Elliot Ness to create what would become the Untouchables.
The Untouchables were sort of formed from Andrew Mellon, the Secretary of Treasury at the time. His task was as directed from the president himself to Herbert Hoover, if you didn't know, to take down Al Capone's massive underground empire, and he got a man named Elliot Ness to form a group of men who were very chivalrous in their own personal aspects. They had no backgrounds of any sort of corruption, or they had really no vices that you could sort of coax them into what's the word? Into corrupting them, I guess. And he got 11. He formed. It was 150 men at first. he got 150 men out of every single federal bureau area, and it eventually got down to 15, and then to 11 people, and these people were charged on two fronts. One front were these were people who sort of wanted to research Al Capone's financial records of any sort of forms of tax evasion, which is what he'd eventually be caught on, which is kind of wimpy if you ask me. And the other was tasked with telling the public and any criminal standing out there that we're not joshing around. We're not messing around. And they were tasked with breaking into breweries and speakeasies and any sort of alcoholic activity. They just grabbed it by, I can't say that, by the horns, and they broke into any places, arrested any people, and summarily they didn't really didn't per se catch Al Capone. They severely weakened his brewing empire, and funny story on their name. Every single one of them were sort of bribed in one way or another by Al Capone's men or his associates to sort of get off Al Capone's back. I mean, and then to that they were like, we don't tell everybody about this one. So they told the news that they personally were all bribed, and the news exploded about it. I mean, it's sort of saying we ain't gonna take down Al Capone. Get out of here, and that's how they got the name the Untouchables.
I guess the FBI could be seen as sort of the hero of the story of the line of mobsters. They were the deciders to if the mob would cease or exist. They were the ones that put the death blow to the reigning power of the mobsters. Mobsters in the 1920s, they left a really big a lighthouse for other mobsters to follow in their past. They left this huge legacy that the gangs and mobs, they still exist nowadays, and they still do the same stuff as the past. They run cartels, they trade drugs, they run prostitution, they get the green.
In the end, the gangsters and mobsters of the 1920s and 30s, along with the FBI, created enthralling tales of deceit, greed, and violence. It created many heroes and numerous villains that have stood the test of time and have become legends still remembered today. This has been history, made every day.
Hey everybody, did the news get around about a guy named Butcher Pete? Old Pete just flew into this town and he's chopping up all the women's meat. He's hacking and whacking and smacking. He's hacking and whacking and smacking. He's hacking and whacking and smacking. He just hack, whack, chopping that meat. Butcher Pete's got a long, sharp knife. He starts chopping and don't know
I
where
don't
to
know.
stop. All you fellas better watch your wives, but Pete don't care whose meat he
Son.
chops. He's hacking and whacking and smacking. He's hacking and whacking and smacking.
There's only one reasonable explanation.
Hey, now.
That's a really great one.
You just grow it. It don't matter.
I hate you, Mom, so much. Bark, Brandy. I got a really good
He's been having a ball. Just cutting and chopping for miles around. Single women, married women, old maids and all. Oh, Pete. He loves that meat.
Sometimes when you're
Wakes up
as
in the
swag as me,
morning,
you just gotta take the little ones to the cross. Look at me. I'm just swag. Bleeds from each and every one of my clothes.
I mean, they wake up. I mean, what's the Gucci man killer?
Smoking.
Police put Pete in jail. Yes, they finally met his fate. But when they came to pay his bill, they found him chopping on his cellmate. And now, that's what the Pete man tried to chop down the win in the race. Just act on anything he can.
Pick it up.